Welcome back to What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur. I'm Vincent Lanci, speaker and author of the book Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption. Want to know what it's really like to be an entrepreneur? Well, you came to the right place. Whether you're already an entrepreneur or looking to start your journey tomorrow, or just someone who needs a little extra motivation to get through the day, this is the perfect podcast for you. This is the place where you will learn exactly what it's like in the world of entrepreneurship and hear authentic stories of entrepreneurs grinding on each episode. My goal for this podcast is to help you realize that giving up is never an option. If you missed the last episode, be sure to download it after you finish tuning in today. Before I introduce today's guest, I'll share another entrepreneurial story to inspire you all. Today, I will introduce Kevin Harrington, and here's a few highlights I jotted down. He was one of 6 children and also the son of an entrepreneur. He didn't want to follow along the school route, so what did he start doing? Became an entrepreneur young. At 9 years old, he started selling newspapers in the streets of Cincinnati. He was already hungry to learn more. At just 11 years old, he began going to restaurant trade shows with his dad and reading business books to learn as much as he could about business as a whole. As you can probably infer, he started his own company at just 15 in an asphalt sealing operation. His focus was to repair cracked driveways. He did not know a thing about asphalt sealing, but one thing he did know and leverage was his knowledge of numbers. He was quoted saying, "You could buy the sealer for 50 cents a gallon and charge $100 a driveway. So for just $10 for the cost of goods plus labor," he continued to add, "I had to hire someone who was 16 to drive the truck because I was even too young to drive. Fast forward now, he was one of the original sharks on the show Shark Tank and has never looked back since." Hey, JC, what'd you like best about his story?
I just love the fact that he started early and he found a product with great margins.
Absolutely. For a young guy, it's pretty unheard of, but the voice you just heard is today's guest. My guest on the show today is another friend I met through networking. As I'm always looking to grow as a speaker, I'm always researching on ways to be better. During my searches, I came across this valuable organization who delivers valuable speeches to students. This led me to check out the founder of the organization, who's run by a true entrepreneur, and I am lucky enough to have him on the show for you all today. Allow me to please introduce Mr. JC Pohl. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Vince. It's fun to be here. Really excited to be part of this.
Great. Well, if you don't mind, please preview just a bit of your story, and then we'll touch on what you're up to today before we hop into the episode.
Definitely. My story into entrepreneurship is definitely one that I never thought I would be telling. It's kind of funny, though. I just hearing Kevin Harrington's story, I always mowed lawns and did jobs around the neighborhood to make money. But I really had one goal growing up and one goal only, and that was to work for Disney. That's all I cared about growing up. I kind of grew up during those years of Michael Eisner and this like new renaissance for Disney with the Disney stores and the Lion King and Aladdin, just all this great stuff. And of course, I grew up in San Diego. So I'd always go to Disneyland, and it's just what I want to do. It's what I wanted to be when I grew up, was working in marketing for Disney. And I got the opportunity actually in college to intern at the park. So I spent some time working at Disneyland, and then I landed this awesome internship at Walt Disney Studios, actually up in your neighborhood, traveling throughout New York and New Jersey, visiting movie theaters. And so just had an amazing time. And after I graduated college, I landed that dream job at Disney, Walt Disney Studios, working in marketing. It was awesome. I was on the lot right next to the same building where Walt Disney himself used to work, and just loved every single minute of it. But right about that time of my life, something happened that kind of switched my path. And it's what brought me here today to speak to you. And that was the Columbine high school shooting. Columbine happened, I was about 22, 23 years old at the time. And as a young, filmmaker in Hollywood, my producing partner and I, we really felt like no one was giving kids a voice around the issue. And you might remember back then, you turn on the news, you turn on Oprah or CNN, you always see some adult, you always see some expert telling us why Eric and Dylan did what they did. They blame the video games, the music they listen to, and all this crazy stuff. And we're like, no, we got to hear from kids. I wonder what kids had to say about this. And so we saved up some money, ended up buying a camera off this new website they had back then called eBay. Bought like the cheapest camera we could find. And we went out and we just started talking to students wherever we could find them, at a mall, at a park, at a school. And long story short is we found out that they had something to say about the issue. And so we ended up recruiting 5 students to carry cameras for us for an entire school year. And what we got back was this unadulterated look into teenage life. Just all the pressures they were going through, the relational conflict they were feeling, and just what it was like to be a teenager at school, middle school and high school. And so we ended up making a movie called Teen Truth, and that's where this whole thing started. The film came out, it had an educational distributor to go into schools, and it actually did very well for our distributor. And schools started asking us to come to school, and we basically developed this motivational assembly around the film. And so flash forward, here we are like 20 years later, we got films on drugs and alcohol, body image and self-esteem, parenting. We got films on social media and mental health. And so what we do now is we go into schools and we help build a school culture where kids can find their voice. And we use our films as an example of what it looks like for students to have a voice. And so our primary business right now is doing school assemblies and leadership summits at the middle school and high school level. We've got about 4 or 5 speakers that work for us, and we travel to schools throughout the country just having a great time and just working really hard to empower student voice and doing everything that we tried to do, 20 years ago when we first launched that first film.
Just beginning to the episode, I can't wait to hop into the big 5. JC, on each episode, my guest and I go over these 5 questions to help all of the listeners listening in learn what it's really like to be an entrepreneur. You ready to go?
Okay, let's get after it for sure.
Good. We might have touched on it a little bit, whether it might have been Columbine or when you just really only wanted to work for Disney. But when did you first realize that you weren't happy with what you were doing, or you needed a change to head down this entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think one thing I've learned about entrepreneurship is it comes in many different shapes and sizes. People come to it from all different walks of life. And for me, to be honest with you, it was kind of a mistake. It was something I backed into. Like I never really planned to be speaking in schools for a living. That wasn't really my plan growing up. My goal is to work in marketing for Disney, and I actually loved working for Disney. I spent time at the studio. I worked for Disney DVD, got the chance to work for Warner Brothers and work on films like Harry Potter. And so I was like I really loved what I was doing. But it got to the point where Teen Truth really started to take off. And, there were some changes. I was actually working in DVD. And as we all know, DVD kind of fell apart a few years back with all the online media that we have now. And so it's kind of the perfect opportunity to kind of jump ship and just go all in on Teen Truth. And that's why the change happened. It was more about like making food money and paying my mortgage and, making sure I had a job. And then, of course, following my passion. And the passion that we had as a team together working to build Teen Truth. And like I said, just to empower student voice and build school culture. And it's something we've been doing ever since. I mean, I honestly feel like I haven't had a job in like 10 years. That's the way it feels to me. And it's just been a wonderful ride that we've been on. And I'm just feel so blessed and thankful that we've, come as far as we have.
It's already so inspiring just the first question through, because one thing you've done is you followed your 2 passions. You wanted to be at Disney. You wanted to do marketing. You did what it took to get to that position. And then you also had your side hustle, it seemed like, which was Teen Truth, which now, for early entrepreneurs listening in, this is a 20-year project he's working on, and he's still flourishing. So all of this inside is going to help you.
And what's cool is like it all kind of rolls together, right? It's like you build this thing brick by brick by brick. And so like the time at Disney, or even learning about someone like Walt, it's funny when they hire you at Disney, you have to go through this orientation program. And one of the things they teach you is like to think, what would Walt do? So whether you're at the studio or at the park, like ask yourself, if you're in a situation, what would Walt do? And it's like, I still carry that with me. When I'm looking at a cut on a film or when I'm thinking about something we're going to be doing in schools, I ask myself, like, what would Walt do? What should I do? What's true to our brand? And so it's the skills and techniques that I learned early on and continue to build that are still skills and techniques that I use today as an entrepreneur.
Love it. JC, what would you say 1 or 2 of the most difficult parts on that laundry list of being an entrepreneur are?
For sure. Entrepreneurship is nonstop, man. I tell you, it just goes round and around the clock. It's a ton of fun. You are the CEO of just chaos, really, right? You're not like, for me, I work, so I don't know who else you interviewed, but we have a very small company. So it's like laptops and cell phones. We're on planes, every week. So it's a very loose, free flowing company. And I think the hardest thing for me has kind of been that lack of structure a little bit. Maybe trying to hire an employee or signing a partnership deal that doesn't really live up to your expectations. And that can be really difficult, especially when you're an entrepreneur, because you're the one, like, it's your heart, it's your passion, it's everything you care about. You're the one on the, like, last night I flew in from New Hampshire. Like, I landed here at the airport at midnight. I drove home. It's like I wasn't in bed till 1 a.m. And sometimes you wonder if, like, the other people working with you and partnering with you are, like, willing to do the same thing. And sometimes that's a struggle because, like, at the end of the day, some people, they just want a job or they just want to be an employee, and they don't have the same kind of passion that you do as an entrepreneur. So one of the struggles that I've had is really finding the right people that are willing to go all in on Team Truth. And another analogy that maybe you could see this in is like the NFL with football. It's like, I'm sure a great football coach, if they have a player that's like not all in on their system, sometimes it's best to just cut bait and move on and find another player that can kind of fill that hole. And so that's what we had to do a lot with our team. And now we got a great team that's working really well. And so I think that's been the hardest part, is like finding the team that can work in a small company environment where the money's coming from all different directions. You know, a lot of people, they just want to get a paycheck. They want a payday every Friday, you know. And sometimes entrepreneurial world, it doesn't work like that. Like you get bonuses, or you have sales commissions, or you are doing things guerrilla warfare to bring that money in to the company so we can all benefit. I think the other thing that said, you know, you mentioned too, the other thing that I've really struggled with as a young company and a, you know, young entrepreneur coming to this was just like, you're always looking for that edge, because you don't know what the best move is always going to be. And as I look back over the course of the last 15 years running the company, there's definitely some mistakes that we made, or some decisions that we made where it's like, if you knew now what you knew then, you wouldn't have made that decision. But it's like, you're always trying to find that edge, because, like, I'm not some social media genius, you know. I'm not, you know, I study marketing, so I understand, like, marketing conceptually, but you don't want to waste money, right? You don't want to just burn money on Facebook ads. You don't want to partner up with someone who's going to, like, kind of take money out off the top. You know, you mentioned Shark Tank earlier. You know, some of those deals you see on Shark Tank, like from what's that guy, Mr. Wonderful or whatever, you know, you see the people turn him down because he's always wanting to take money off the top,
Yeah.
like off the revenue, right? And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, if I give you that royalty, then all of a sudden I know my profit margin's all screwed up, and that might not be very good for me. So it's like trying to make those decisions in real time as you're running a company can be extremely difficult.
Absolutely. Every once in a while, it comes up in the episode how there's no textbook for entrepreneurship. You are going to have to try, and consider it a failure or lesson learned. That's on you, but there is no right or wrong way to do this. There's no blueprint. You have to go get it. And back to a tough time finding people for your team. I'm at the point where I am working now because I don't know if someone's going to bring that energy, that passion to something that's been my baby. And when you analogy with the NFL, Antonio Brown, we're watching right now, arguably a top 3 performance player at his position, a team saying, we're actually going to step away from you. They didn't even make past the first round of playoffs. You know, that's besides the point. A cancer in the locker room or a company is 10 step backs. And you know how hard it is for those 10 steps to begin with.
It's hard. It's hard to find those right people. But the good news is when you do, it clicks, and they click, and they're excited to be here. It's hard to find those people, especially like as an entrepreneur, because you're not always in the position to maybe pay them in the structure, like I said, that they're used to be paying. Like for Teen Truth, for example, our speakers, I feel we pay our speakers really well per day, but not per year, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not on the road every day of the year.
Yeah.
But if we can get them on the road 30 or 40 days a year, and they can have another side job or another hustle going on, well, now it's looking all right. They're making 30 grand there, 40 grand here, 20 grand there, and it's starting to add up to a salary where, you know, they can live.
Absolutely.
And
That's an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah, it's finding it's finding that kind of person for our company. It's finding that kind of person that can fit into that type of system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What would you say one of your greatest failures was, and what did it teach you? Why is it sticking with you still?
For sure, man. It's the reason why it stuck with me is because I think it was a major failure for us as a company, and because of recognizing that failure, and we've seen a lot of success afterwards. And so the failure I wanted to talk to you about today is basically not pivoting soon enough. as entrepreneurs, we've got to have our head on a swivel. We've got to be quick. We've got to be nimble. Like I said, we're not a huge company, so we're not dealing with like millions of dollars in revenue. You know, like we're dealing with like food money and mortgage money, and people's lives are at stake. And so one of the things with Teen Truth, you know, our story is great. I told you that great story about Disney and Columbine and giving these kids cameras. And so one thing that happened through the progression of our company is that we were founded as a film company. Like that was our DNA. That's what we were all about. And we evolved into this school culture education company. And so looking back, there was a moment in the company where there was kind of this fork in a road. You know, filmmaking is great. It is a lot of fun, but I'll tell you what, you've got better odds sitting at the roulette table in Vegas than you do making money on a film. Okay. Films are very difficult to make money on. They cost a lot of money. They take a lot of time, and they use a lot of resources within the company. And so we got to this fork in the road where it was like, you know, people were like, no, we make films. We're a film company. And like, I can remember this one moment, we were all sitting there at a company retreat, and I kind of said like, I'm not sure if we should be doing that anymore. And everyone's like, no, JC, no way. We make films, you know? And so we continued to make films. And the thing about making films, like we funded a documentary that actually never got finished. Okay, so we put thousands and thousands of dollars in a documentary that never got finished. And then even our parents' film, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important films we've ever made, is still not profitable. You know, it's a film that, and I guess that's what I'm trying to say is like the industry that we were in was shifting. Like when the bully film came out and the drugs film came out, the education industry was very different. Those films actually retailed for $140 each. They would generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue for our distributor, right? They had a good business model around them. Well, then YouTube comes along and Amazon comes along and all this stuff comes along, and all of a sudden a teacher doesn't need to go pay $140 for an educational video anymore. She just pulls up some on YouTube and incorporates it into our lesson plan. And so that shift was happening, and we didn't pivot soon enough. We kept going down the filmmaking route, and it wasn't really until, you know, it came to a point where I bought the company. I bought my partner out, and we were able to kind of shift back to education, and we made that shift to school culture, and we haven't looked back. And we've seen the company double in revenue since then. We've seen our company increase our reach every year since then because we've become focused on what we do. Like, yes, our DNA is as a film company, but the way we make money and what we do in the world is as a school culture educational services company. That's who we are. That's what we do. And so my recommendation to you, and a lesson that I learned from this failure is to not be afraid to pivot and be aware of when that pivot needs to happen. And I tell you one thing, your profit and loss statement will tell you. It will tell you in black and white numbers. Pull that thing up every quarter, every month, whatever it is, every year at the end of the year, and look at it, and you'll see your revenue. If I were to pull that P&L from like 6 or 7 years ago, when I told you that story of that retreat, you'd see that while the films were making money, the school programs were making like 95% of the revenue. They were funding all of the film stuff, right? And so it was right there in black and white. And once we moved towards that and we poured gasoline on that fire and became that kind of company, that's when everything really exploded. And now we're doing great. We're having fun, and we're still making a huge impact through our filmmaking and through the work that we do, but it's just now much more focused on schools.
I appreciate the real life authentic response there, because that's exactly one of the reasons why I created the show for everybody listening in to learn a real life example. I touched on how there's no textbook for this business. Those examples can apply to help a lot of people. Thanks.
I was going to say, and it doesn't mean that you can't be a filmmaker and can't find success. It just means like for our company and what we were doing, there was a moment of like recognizing that. Mm-hmm. And I think we missed that road sign, right? That fork in the road, and we went down the other fork. And we're like, oh man, we missed that. Got to go back.
Yeah, everything's evolving so quickly in the world, technology, especially with that example. you got to be on your feet. But JC, I'm interested in this one with you. If you could have a conversation and learn from any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who are we picking? What are you doing?
For sure. Yeah. I know. So many people come to mind. Obviously, Steve Jobs and all those guys come to mind. I've always said the one guy I would love to sit down with is Larry David. Like, I don't know if you know Larry David, but I
Of
just love that guy,
course.
man. Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, just the way he looks at the world, right? Like, but I think for the purpose of this show, and just my background at Disney, just thinking about this is Bob Iger, the current CEO of Disney. Like, I would love to just pick his brain on some of the work that he's done. I mean, it's funny, when I kind of left Disney many years ago, he was just kind of coming in, and things were going off the tracks a little bit. You know, the .com stuff Disney had really struggled with. I don't know if you remember Go.com. Like, Eisner created Go.com, which like failed. I don't even think it exists anymore. You know, at that time, the TV networks were not really streaming video yet. They weren't streaming their shows, so they were kind of struggling with that. And so it'd be nice to just kind of talk to him about pivoting, right? And like how he came in and really breathed new life into Disney's new media strategy. I think ABC was one of the first networks to actually stream shows at that time, and he was kind of leading that charge. And then, of course, all the work they did bringing Pixar in, bringing Lucasfilm in, bringing Marvel in, like the vision that he had to do that. Because now we all look at Disney and like they're killing it, right? Like, you look at the box office numbers every year, and they're probably, I mean, I don't know the stats, but they're probably like 50% of all movie
They've
revenue
got
now.
everything now. They've got
Yeah,
everything.
it's
Disney
crazy.
Plus,
And
I didn't even know any of that stuff, that they had the Marvel, the Star Wars. It's all Disney.
it's all, yeah, it's crazy. So like that's Iger, right? Like that's the vision that he had to amass these amazing brands and relationships. And what's even interesting with Pixar is, you know, when I kind of was leaving Disney, they were having problems on the animation side. You know, there was no Frozen at that time. Like, they were struggling a little bit. And so bringing Pixar in, John Lasseter and all these guys from Pixar really breathed new life into the animation program as well, which brought us these amazing films like Frozen and all the success they've had. And so that all happened under his watch. And so it would be really cool to just grab a beer with him and just say, hey, man, how did you do it?
That
Lay it
would
on
be
me.
a great one, especially for the pivot, as you mentioned, from struggle to flourishing with the Umbrella brand now having Star Wars and stuff. Outstanding choice there. Let's look into the future. Where do you see yourself in these entrepreneurial endeavors in 1 year and 5 years? Let's start with 1 year. 1 year from today, what are we hoping?
1 year for sure. Well, this is nice because I just finished my yearly New Year's like journaling activities and everything,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty locked in on that. You know, this year our goal is just to become more tactical in our sales and marketing efforts. As you can imagine, just hearing me talk, like I'm a marketing guy, I'm a creative guy. I love film, I love story, I love characters, and unfortunately, that means I'm not a very good data guy. Things like Google Analytics and Facebook ads and just all the algorithms and you know everything that comes along with being kind of a disciplined marketer and a knowledgeable marketer when it comes to data are things that we really want to work hard on this year. We feel that our programs and our speaking staff and like our team is in a really good spot. Now it's like, how do we amass the proper data and have the proper like tactical approach to leverage these programs properly in schools. And so that's really going to be our
Absolutely.
focus going forward. Um,
Let's do five now. Let's put
yeah,
the binoculars on.
the 5 year goal is a little harder. I mean, I think for me, I think 5 years down the road, it's really about building that structure around the company. You know, having it to a true place where, you know, one of the things about being an entrepreneur that many of our listeners might find is like so much is driven off your personality as the entrepreneur. You know, so if I'm on the phone with someone or someone sees me speak at a conference, like they want JC to come. And it's like, between me and you, like, yeah, I'll do a good job. I do a good job, right?
Hmm.
But my speakers also do a really good job. Like, some of them are younger than me. The kids love them. Like, one of the guys played the NFL. Like, we got an NFL player as one of our speakers. And so, like, but it's hard to separate that, right? Like, they still saw me speak at the conference. So it's like building the structure within the company to be able to leverage that team properly and then still allow me to be that speaker and that person coming in, doing the trainings, doing the conferences, doing the higher level stuff that like a general assembly speaker or leadership summit speaker can't do. And so to do that, we've got to build that, right? And so I think over the next 5 years, that would be the goal. Like, I honestly believe our programs and our content is in a great space right now. So it's about like, again, how do we leverage everything properly to build a more horizontal company instead of a vertical company that I'm sure that's what most entrepreneurs, struggle with. And so our biggest thing that we've always had, and I've always believed this from day one, is we really focus on our engagements. For us, it's not about dollars. We know that if we can book schools, we know that if we can reach students, we know that if conferences accept us as a speaker in their program, that we will make money. And so we focus on those engagements, and every year we just bump it up 10%. And that's something I really wanted to highlight, when you asked me to kind of prepare and think through this question. I wanted to highlight for your audience, because I think a lot of times in Entrepreneur Magazine or when you turn on Shark Tank, you see these entrepreneurs and they're like, we're going to double sales next year, right? We're going to increase everything by 75%. And the cool thing is, like, some of the people on Shark Tank actually do that. Yeah. But in my experience as an entrepreneur, like, what I kind of hang my hat on is building this thing brick by brick, 10% by 10% by 10%. Last year we did 150 gigs. Next year we want to do 165. The year after that, whatever 10% of that is, and keep building this thing. So the 5-year goal is just like brick by brick by brick, building towards that goal. And so that's kind of like what I wanted to leave your audience with to think about as they think about their goals, as they plan with their company.
Absolutely, JC. Thanks so much again for coming on today. I know everybody's going to see the value in your episode because you talked about a lot of things that entrepreneurs are going through. And I really appreciate the greatest failure story because it came from the heart, and I know that's going to go a long way. But let's touch on the last word here. It's something I do each episode. Is there something you'd like to share with our listeners that you didn't touch on yet today?
I guess the last word that as an entrepreneur, and every entrepreneur knows this in their heart, is you've got to be prepared to sell. You've got to learn to sell in every aspect of the word. So if you want to be an entrepreneur or you want to have success, learn about sales. Respect the sales process. Don't be afraid to make the calls. I feel in today's world of social media and things like Shark Tank and all that stuff, we do see a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people that seem to take a shortcut. It's pretty amazing, these people that go viral. I mean, dude, there's this kid my son watches on YouTube, and he was like the top earner on YouTube, making like $20 million. He plays with toys. He's like a 6-year-old or 7-year-old or whatever that plays with toys. And so you see someone like that and you're like, oh my God, we need to be doing that. We need to go viral. We need that kind of shortcut. Or you see the people on Shark Tank where it just explodes. They make this amazing product and it explodes. And if you're listening to this podcast and that happens to you, thumbs up, awesome job, high five. But where I'm coming from as an entrepreneur is you got to be prepared to do it brick by brick and do good old fashioned sales work every day, show up and just kind of always be closing. And that's kind of the last word I want to leave you with today is just be prepared to sell, and be prepared to sell in every aspect of that word.
Absolutely. For me, even I'm taking blind shots with DMs, like you, for example, messaging you, emailing you, just taking a chance because my life does not change if you say yes or no. It only betters when you say yes because I built a new relationship and I get a great, valuable story for the show right now.
Yeah, I mean, just fun, quick story. Like we have this partnership with a company called Life Touch. They do a ton of school photography. And I was at their conference one summer, and this guy got the award for like being the best sales guy. And so I pulled him aside. I said, hey, man, how did you become the best sales guy? He's like, JC, he goes, I just knock on more doors than everybody else. The more doors I knock on, the higher my percentage of selling something goes up. And I think the same is true with us. The more DMs, the more emails, the more phone calls, the more face-to-face meetings that we can have, the more stages we can get on and share our message. Hopefully the more reach we're going to have and the more success our company is going to have.
Absolutely. Can you go ahead and please share your social media and website, any ways for our listeners to request your services or follow your journey?
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to connect with anyone out there. I do not do too much tweeting or Instagramming, so don't look for me too much out there. But I am on Facebook under JC Pohl. That's Pohl. I'm on LinkedIn as well. And then, of course, you can connect with us at teamtruth.net and jcpohl.com. And Vince, I wanted to offer your guests just a free gift today if they're interested. We do a lot of work around school culture, so I know many people listening might have kids in schools, maybe some of them are school administrators themselves, but I wanted to offer them a free download of my book, a school culture book that I wrote. So if you go to teentruth.net/school culture, that's teentruth.net/school culture, you can download a free copy of the book and we'll email it out to you immediately.
I appreciate that, and I will promote that as your episode comes out. Remember, everybody could also follow the show on Instagram and Facebook at Your Favorite Morning Podcast and on Twitter at Podcasts by Lanci. Of course, my handles are at Vincent A. Lanci on all social media and YouTube, and my website is vincentalanci.com. Be sure to check out my book, Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption, on Amazon now, and DM me or email me. I want to hear what you think. If you enjoyed today's episode, please continue listening and rate What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur 5 stars. I work very hard to find value delivering stories for you on each episode. And as always, I will end the show and follow the last word with a quote that inspired me, and I hope it will for you too. This one is from David Sack, the founder of Yammer. There is something artificial when everyone is agreeing with each other. It's useful to indulge people who don't agree and see their viewpoint, or force yourself to explain things better. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next episode of What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur.